Hello and welcome to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I am your host, Sandy Lowries, and the Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to us by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. That's WB40.com. Today in the confessional, I am super excited to be chatting with this incredibly inspirational woman. She's achieved so much in her career and she's not planning on slowing down anytime soon. Rachel Walker Mason is a multi-award winning songwriter and musician who last year in 2020 won Album of the Year. She is a best-selling author, as if that wasn't enough. Her book is called Not the Only One, based on her experiences and other people's experiences of dealing with postnatal depression. She is now an advocate for maternal mental health because of her lived experiences. But if that's not enough, Rachel is the only Brit who has actually been inducted into the Indie Hall of Fame, and she was actually hailed an inspiration by none other than Prince Harry for her work with children's choirs across the UK. She also, in 2021, won a British Citizen of the Year award. She's an extraordinary human, but she's dynamic and brilliant and fun, raw and honest, and I just know you're going to love her. Welcome to the confessional, Rachel Walker Mason. Welcome to the confessional, Rachel. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's early here, 9 a.m. in the UK, so I've got a cup of tea. Very British.
And it's 7:15 here, so 9:15 there, I'm guessing, and here in Melbourne, Australia. So thank you so much for joining us so early and for making this work, because I am super excited to be talking with you in the confessional today.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. No, I'm delighted. I'm delighted to be here.
I have so many questions. My mind is blown. For those people who don't know about you, Rachel, you have accomplished so many things. You're an extraordinary human being. But first of all, I wanted to say congratulations for you've become a citizen recipient for the UK. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was my husband nominated me for that. It's I was completely surprised. So it's for my work in the arts in the UK. So I run a scholarship for underprivileged children to have singing lessons and to be able to access the arts, which they otherwise, it's a bit of an elitist kind of hobby otherwise. So I've been running that for a long time and working in communities with like the creative arts and bringing different parts of the community together, like teenagers and elderly people and things. So yeah, my husband nominated me for a British Citizenship Award, and I, lo and behold, I got it. So we went to London. It was crazy. Went up to London and received this award, and it was amazing and kind of bizarre at the same time. You get to meet all these other people who have done amazing things and made a huge difference to their communities. So it was a really lovely experience. Yeah.
Oh, you must be so proud, and it's so deserving, by the way, because what a phenomenal thing that you have created in this scholarship. Wow, well done you. And talking about music, everyone who is watching this, if you're just listening to this podcast, you will not be seeing this, but behind Rachel is, there are gold records and silver records, and there's records everywhere framed behind her, because Rachel, you are, of course, an award-winning songwriter. How long have you been writing music for?
Well, I guess since I was a baby, really. I've always had kind of music in my head and written songs and things just since forever, and then have studied music all the way through school and university, and then went into it as a career, and yeah, I've been writing songs, or professionally I've been doing it for the last 10 years probably, and really seriously in the last couple of years I've lockdown helped to kind of focus my interest and think, okay, what do I really want to do? What do I really want? And I was able to write on Zoom with songwriters all over the world, because we were all trapped at home and so couldn't get into a studio together or travel to see each other. So it opened up the whole world. So I was writing with people in Nashville from here in the UK. it was amazing. It made that was one of the few ways the pandemic's actually done something positive. It's kind of opened up the music world without us having to travel all the time. So that made a big difference to kind of boosting my songwriting and things like that.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And I'm so happy to hear that because obviously here in Australia and in the UK and the US and everywhere else in the world, I guess, live music performances have really suffered and a lot of musicians are doing it tough. So I think it's really beautiful to hear the positive side that's going on in the music industry as well, of collaboration and people getting to meet each other, work together. That's so beautiful.
It was I think creatives just want to create, and we tend to be extroverts who we want to be with the people. We want people, and I really struggled not being able to do things like that, not being able to see my choir and my friends and things. So it made a huge difference to be able to be on Zoom and collaborate with different people, because they weren't doing much either. They were all stuck at home. All their gigs were cancelled, and all my friends that are musical theatre performers in the West End of London, all their shows were cancelled, so they were just all stuck at home. So I was able to write with them, whereas normally they're doing 9 shows a week, 8 shows, 9 shows a week, so they'd never be available for anything because they just work and work and work when they're in a show. So it kind of provided opportunities that we would never normally have. So it was one of those few pluses in that time.
Which is so wonderful because obviously, you have a partner and you have young children and, I suppose it's nice for you as well to take a breath and actually say, I'm being able to create more. I'm being able to, I guess, collaborate with different creatives that you hadn't before.
Yeah.
But congratulations to you because you actually won Album of the Year in 2020. Is that right?
Yeah, with my my co-writer Luke. So we write worship music together. We lead worship at church together. We wrote this album and didn't think much would happen with it, and it just became really popular. And then it won Album of the Year. We were like, what? It was quite a shock. So we've continued to write together. So we've got some new things coming out, and that was a big surprise. I didn't expect that one at all.
And tell us about that, like how do you find out that you get nominated for Album of the Year, and then when you won, was there an award ceremony? How does that work?
There
lockdown
much at the moment. So they just sort of announced it online that we'd won, and because they announced the kind of top 10, like one each day, and it was kind of getting towards number 1, and we thought, we won't have possibly beaten Andrea Bocelli and people like that. We're like, that's never going to have happened. And then lo and behold, we got not the number 1 spot. I wasn't even online at that point. Luke messaged me to say, we've won. Because I thought, it's never going to happen. I'll just check in later. But yeah, we'd won it. So yeah, there wasn't an award ceremony because, it was still the middle of lockdown. It was like last year in January.
Yeah, of course. But congratulations. That's epic. I mean, it's huge.
Thanks.
And you write lots of different music, which actually intrigues me. I have a partner who's a muso and, I find it really interesting. I'm a creative as well in terms of I write and I am a creative director of a magazine and a podcaster and whatnot. But it's really fascinating to me when people cross over genres, and that applies to writers as well as songwriters. But you write for so many different kinds of musicians, I guess, like gospel music, country music.
All kinds of different. I guess because I'm not writing for myself, I'm writing for others. It gives me so much freedom to be able to kind of live vicariously through those artists. And when I get to write with country artists, they've got these amazing, beautiful country voices, and then I try and sing the song and it's a car crash, it's awful, but they sound so beautiful singing it. I can kind of channel through them, and it's great because it's never things that I could sing. Like if I put an album out of the things that I've written with other people, it would be awful. People would be going, oh god, her voice sounds terrible in that. So it's great. It just means I can sort of like switch gears and write for different styles. And I think when you're writing with someone who is like embedded in that style, they're so good at it that you can kind of sink in with them. And and write like that. And it's so much fun because I get to do completely different things day to day, and I love it because it's like a challenge as well. Like I go to a session thinking, oh, am I going to be able to come out with anything? What if nothing appears? What if I can't write anything today? And then invariably we'll leave the session with a full song and think, oh, cool. It's like magic. It's like when you write an article or something, it's like suddenly there and you're like, oh, I did it.
And I think it's a very similar process, believe me. Sometimes I sit down and I'll be staring at my laptop thinking, is anything going to happen today? And then some days, as you know, like you're inspired, and you can't stop writing or. So, well done you. Congratulations. I'm just so blown away by, as I said, everything that you have done. So if, winning awards for your music isn't enough, what's really fascinating to me is that I read a piece where you said that you have always seen music in colours. And I'm intrigued by that. So can you explain to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's a condition that I only learned of a few years ago. I just thought I was weird. It's called Synesthesia, and quite a few musicians have it actually. There's Pharrell Williams, Billy Joel, Tori Amos. There's quite a few who have it, and it means when you hear music, it's almost like I see it kind of in my mind's eye, like different colours. But I know some people see it literally like in the room. They actually see. And I'm like, God, that must be quite distracting. They see, like, when they talk, they see a purple cloud literally there. And I'm like, I think I find that quite distracting. It's just, like, in my head when I see it. But, I've just always had it. And I remember saying to my parents as a little girl, when you listen to Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush and it's green? And they kind of looked at each other like, what is wrong with my child?
They were thinking, what is it?
Exactly. And this was back in the 80s, so we didn't have the internet to be able to research, what this is. So for years and years and years, I never knew what it was. I just thought it was a weird thing that my brain did, because I assumed that everybody did that. Because you do when you're a child, you think that everybody thinks like you because you only know your own brain. And then I realised that other people didn't see music as colours, and then just thought I was weird until I realised actually
it's a real thing.
It's a real thing, and there's lots of different kinds. There's like some people see numbers as colours, or they can taste things, and it's something that's when we weren't fully evolved, when we were a long time ago as humans, all our senses were linked, and so we could taste and see, and that all the senses were linked up. But we've gradually evolved to not have that because we don't need it. But some people who are probably not quite as evolved like me.
Well, it's interesting because I would say it's the other way around. I would say it's the people who are probably more evolved in that, and scientists are still saying that we use so little, or we understand so little of what parts of our brain we use, that clearly you've tapped into or continue to have, because I think children have an extraordinary imagination, and, we lose some of what possibly we already were using. And what we explain away as imagination, and yet you've managed to hang on to that for your entire career, and I mean, I would imagine that's a gift.
People often refer to it as my superpower. It's not a very good superpower in terms of I can't fly, or I'm not like Spider-Man or anything, but I can see music as colours. So it's kind of this slightly odd superpower, but it's quite useful in my career. So when I'm doing a live show and I have to do the lighting plan, I find it really easy because I can already see what colours go with the songs.
Wow.
So
I find that really amazing. My daughter did dancing for like a lot of years when she was younger, and her dance teacher used to say that when she choreographed, she could always see like stick figures in her head, and that she could choreograph literally with these stick figures, and she knew exactly what it was going to look like.
It's quite an odd, I know some dancers who do that. They kind of, it's like the matrix is in their head and they can get it all sorted. And they just know what it's going to be like. And I'm not that good at dance. I can sort of.
But I feel like it's a similar kind of a gift, in terms of being able to visualise something that the rest of us perhaps can't. So I think it's
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. It's a useful. Yeah, I can do it with when I arrange for choirs. So I've run show choirs for a long time, and I would never play the harmony parts out on the piano because I just, as I wrote them down, I knew what it would sound like. I knew what, and then they would sing it, and I'd go, yeah, that's what it was in my head. But I can't do useful things like reverse park a car, or there's a lot of things that you would think would be much more useful in life.
I don't know. I can't live without music, so I'm going to say no. What you do for me is far more useful than the fact that I can reverse park. So, I'm grateful to the
Oh,
songwriters of the world and the performers of the world. But you are, as if that isn't enough, Rachel. You're actually an award-winning author. And I really wanted to have a chat with you about this. So, you have an award-winning book, and I want to make sure that I get the title right. But the title is Not the Only One. You are an advocate for maternal mental health issues, and the book is actually about postnatal depression. So I wanted to chat with you
yeah,
about that because I think it's such an important topic for women, but also for men as well, and for any parent to hear this.
yeah.
So if you're comfortable, I'd love to chat with you more about that.
Sure. Yes, it's something that I'd had depression years ago, and then when I was pregnant with my daughter Layla, who's now 4, the midwife said to me, "You are at, because you've had mental health issues before, you are at higher risk for postnatal depression." And I just thought, no, I won't be. I won't have that because I'm used to kind of pushing my way through things with tenacity. That's just how I roll in life generally. And then after she was born, I did have postnatal depression, but I wouldn't admit it because I felt like a failure. And it's not a failing at all, it's just your hormones and your brain's doing weird things. But I was so ashamed that I couldn't deal with this, this life change. So I just kind of muscled on, carried on in life until it got to about 6 months, and things were really bad then. And I'd not told anybody, and I finally admitted to my husband that I didn't think I was doing very well, and I thought I might need some sort of medical help. And he was amazing and was so supportive. And he said, anything you need, anything you need. And my family were all really lovely. And so I got some support. And one of the only things that helped during the time when I wouldn't talk to anybody was writing lyrics down. I would just write down how I felt in the form of lyrics, because then I knew that I could fob it off as just lyrics. If someone found them and said, "Oh, is this how you're feeling?" I'd say, "Oh, no, it's just a song I'm writing." So I could kind of process it in my mind as lyrics. And it was the only thing that really seemed to help until I actually got some proper medical help. And then I had my son 18 months later, and had postnatal depression again. But this time I was kind of expecting it because it had happened before, and you're statistically more likely to have it with the second if you had it with the first. So I got some help straight away, and then was much more open talking about it because, on social media we always like to show our best selves, our perfect life, and we don't tend to share the things that are not so great about us. And so I'd not said anything about my kind of maternal mental health struggles because I didn't want people to know that about me. And at that time, I'd been filming a TV show in the UK, and it was then on TV, and people would message me saying, "Oh my gosh, you've just had a baby and you've got it all together. Look at
You
you on
look
TV doing
great.
this. You're so amazing." And I thought, exactly. And I thought, I'm being really, really unfair to people because I absolutely did not have it all together. I was like crying in the toilets between takes and things. I was not in my right mind. And that's not fair to make other people feel bad, well, for them to feel bad in any way, thinking that I have got it all together, because I absolutely haven't and did not at that point. And so I thought, right, I need to actually be honest about this because it's not fair on anyone. So I admit
And not fair on you either
exactly,
to be
yeah,
trying to carry that load every day to, "There, look at me, I'm smiling.
exactly, when inside you're just falling apart. And it was the one of the most terrifying things I've done, because I don't normally talk about that kind of thing online, but actually it was the best thing I've ever done. And the amount of people that I knew and didn't know who contacted me to say, oh my goodness, I went through the same thing, or my sister's going through it now, or my mum did, and it was just so many people, and husbands and partners and dads and all kinds of people contacted me saying that the women in their lives had gone through it. And it suddenly kind of opened this kind of Pandora's box almost of people being able to talk about something. It kind of, not that I'm a celebrity or anything, remotely like that, but just me being able to say something about it meant that other people felt they could share as well. And it was amazing. And the amount of mums and dads I met on social media who talk really openly about their journey and how hard it's been, and some of them had to go into mental health units and things because they had postpartum psychosis and things, which I think I also had but wouldn't admit it. So I really should have actually been in hospital for some of that, but I didn't admit it.
But I think but that's a journey, right?
Exactly.
And you can't be hard on yourself looking back, because I think what you've provided is you've started a conversation that allowed other people to share their stories and their journeys, and that's hugely brave and massively brilliant.
Oh, thank you. And I think that's what I then wanted to do, because when I was going through the worst of it, I thought I wish I had a book of stories of mums and dads going through this and coming out the other side. So I know there were like case studies, real life studies of people going through it and it being okay in the end. And there wasn't one, so I thought, well, I'll write it. And because I met all these, classic me doing something ridiculous, I was like, I haven't written a book before, but it'll be all right.
I'll do it.
And so I contacted all the people on social media that I'd met, all these amazing mums and dads from all over the world, and said, would you be okay with sharing your story in my book? And they all said yes, and were so lovely and generous with their experiences and their time, and were just amazing. And so the book it's not really, I would never refer to it as my book, I kind of put it all together, but it's their stories of what they've been through and how they've come through it. And so there is, it's tough, but there is hope. So, my kind of hope was that anyone who read the book, even if it was just one person who was going through the same thing as us, would read it and think, it's going to get better, and there's other people who understand. So that was, that felt like a good thing to put out into the world, and it's seemed to have a really big impact on people, which, for a little self-published book, I didn't think it would reach anyone other than, people.
And here it is, a bestseller. And as you say, probably the reason for that is your honesty, your bravery, and the bravery of other people sharing their stories. Because part of anything that we go through in regards to mental health, I think a big part of healing is not feeling alone, of understanding that you are not the only person out there going through this, because often it feels exactly like that.
Yes, absolutely. And and it can be frightening because you think, oh, I must be the only person. And it's actually, statistically, it's something like 1 in 7 women, it's slightly lower in men, but higher in women, have postnatal depression or anxiety or something like that after giving birth. And then that's actually gone up. That number has increased during lockdown because these poor mums have been giving birth often on their own.
Yeah.
They've been able to come into hospital. They've had no one to come and visit. So they've I really needed that support system, and I still struggled even with that support system. So these women are women superheroes going through this on their own during a global pandemic, and it's
Wow. Yeah.
They're amazing for coming out the other side.
Absolutely.
With a little baby.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to imagine. I mean, I'm the mother of 3 kids. I, had an extremely difficult birth with the first one. My heart stopped. So that was quite an adventure. It was a long time, many years later, that I ended up having 2 more children, having been told I probably wouldn't have more children. But the anxiety, I remember there was anxiety, and I don't think that I ever recognised it to verbalise it afterwards. But of course I was extremely nervous. I'd had miscarriages prior as well, and I was worried, A, would I lose this child? B, be? What was the birth going to be? All of the things, and even though I was under all of this amazing care and I knew it wouldn't be the same, there's a lot that women go through that we often don't share, don't verbalize, don't talk about, because there's this expectation on us as mothers that we're just supposed to give birth, have this baby, and be all things and have a perfect Instagram story about it, right? So
Exactly. You're like, no, it's just not. It's just not. And it's, you're absolutely right. And the more we kind of normalise actually what it's really like, it makes other people feel like their experience was normal rather than like they didn't have the joyful, Instagram ready, everyone looking perfect, and then in full makeup after giving birth. It's like, no.
It's so true. Look, I'm obviously much older, and I have a 30-year-old son and a 23-year-old and a 21-year-old. So there's like 9 years between first and third. I think for me, thankfully, I wasn't under that kind of pressure in terms of, Instagram wasn't a thing. Facebook, really only started 10, 12 years ago, whatever it may be. It wasn't like I wasn't under that scrutiny, but a lot of women, I think, sadly feel that, and it's difficult to not compare, but I often say to people, please don't compare yourself to other people. Everyday women like our good selves, you shouldn't really be comparing yourself to very famous celebrities who come out of hospital looking like they've never had a baby, and 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later they're doing a bikini shoot. I mean, but I'm saying that, and there's nothing wrong with those women, good luck to them, but for most of us that's not the reality.
Exactly. And I think it's become expected for that to be the reality, and people say, oh, why isn't your body snapped back yet? You're like, oh, I gave a 9-pound baby came out of my bars. So,
hello. And also, too, I do think it's like women are having children later as well. And I think what people don't understand, I had my first child, I was so young. I was a baby myself. I was like 21. And I had this baby, and yes, I snapped back. But let me tell you, 9 years after that, when I had baby number 3, that was not a reality. It was never going to happen.
Yeah, I think that's, and we've got a lot more going on. It's, and what was interesting is one of the midwives said to me, after my second child was born, she said, young mums tend to have less expectations about the kind of mum they'll be and the kind of life they'll have with this baby. They just kind of, get on with it. Come out less worried, whereas the older we get, the more, particularly people like you and me, who are quite career driven, and we're people who know what we want, and we know ourselves, we know what we can cope with, and what, we're like, oh yes, I can stay up all night and meet that deadline. We know we can do that.
Yeah.
And then a baby full on throws a spanner in the works, with all the hormones and everything else that comes with it, and
also the fact that you have no control. So, you only have X amount of control once that child comes along, because everything you thought was going to happen probably goes out the window in the first 5 minutes. Every baby's different, and every woman is different after we give birth, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you are a different person, and priorities change. Like things that I really thought I cared about before I had the children, now I'm like, like I still travel, but I limit it.
Yeah.
Because I want to be there with them. I didn't think I'd be that bothered. That sounds really bad, but I just didn't think I care as much about being there for like really mundane things with them, but just like, just picking them up from school and giving them a snack after school. They really like me being there for that, and I've got to go away in a week or so, and I'm looking forward to the work that I'm going to do, but I'll really miss them, and just the normalness of life, and the little things that I didn't think I'd ever love that much.
I love that.
So it's so.
No, I do. I love that, because I was the same. I really always thought, I always knew I wanted to be a mum. Like for some women, they don't, and that's 100% fine too. I always kind of knew I did. But in becoming a mum, I didn't actually realise how, friends actually accused me quite often of being quite gushy about my children. And
Really?
I never thought I would be that person, but I am that person,
Yeah.
right? And even though they're grown-ups now, I've got a son planning a wedding. My eldest son is planning his wedding. I'm just so, I get emotional and I'm quite proud and I'm so excited and all the things. I'm still that person.
Yeah, I think it happens, doesn't it? I always thought, my ballet, and she did her first like ballet recital, and they did Mary Poppins. She was a
Oh.
pigeon in Mary Poppins, and it was super cute. And I thought, I'm not going to be one of those mums who cries at their kid's ballet recital when the child just goes on stage and does a couple of points and waves at them and scratches their bum. And I was like, oh, and I thought, oh no, I'm not
Right. And I need
parent.
so many photos and I can't believe it. And like it's exciting. I know.
Exactly,
I know.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's like it flicks the switch in you, doesn't
It
it? And I'm
does.
like, wow, I'm a person who cares about really boring stuff that I didn't think I'd care about before. I didn't think I'd be that person, and I just
I love
am.
it. But for the
It happens.
kids, it's not boring, right? So I suppose that's it. We just kind of go, oh, look how happy they are. And they're so passionate and they're so excited. Whatever it may be, ballet,
Exactly.
sport, whatever. Yeah, I was right into it. Don't you worry about that. And I think a lot of people were surprised. I was more surprised, like I just was like, yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
pretty hands on. But I really wanted to come back to something because I'm super excited to ask you this question. You've been applauded. You probably know what I'm going to ask already, but you've been applauded as an inspiration by Prince Harry. And I can't let that slide. So I need to understand. Tell us about that. That's incredible.
That was bizarre. That was probably one of the weirdest experiences of my life. So I do some work with a British charity called Well Child, and they work with seriously ill children, often those who don't recover. Some of them go on to live long lives, but they have kind of serious medical issues, and they're these amazing, inspirational children. And one of the things that the charity does as a fundraiser is they run a school choir competition. So schools with their primary schools with their choirs all across the country can enter, and the winning choir gets to perform at the Well Child Awards, and Prince Harry is the patron. So he's literally right there, and the choir are there, and I'm Prince Harry, and so I'm one of the judges for the competition, and then I coach the winning choir to kind of prep them for performing in front of. It's a room full of celebrities and like movie stars and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It's the weirdest but coolest thing ever. And so this little choir, some of them are about 7 or 8, kind of walk on stage and they're just sort of stunned by this amazing room. And so I kind of coached them in the few weeks before to kind of prepare them for the performance. And so then I've been invited to the awards for the last few years. It hasn't been on for the last couple of years because of the pandemic, but before that I was at the awards, and Prince Harry asked to meet me and one of the other judges who's an opera singer, and to say thank you because the school choir did such an amazing performance. And I was at that point almost 9 months pregnant with my second child, Elias. And it was like a barrage balloon. I was huge. My body just went, you're pregnant again. We know what to do. And just, I was just massive, And so trying to find evening wear
Oh,
for the
yeah.
biggest bum I've ever seen. And like, standing there at the toilet all the time. And when Prince Harry wants to meet you, you have to go at that exact point and just wait there. And I thought, I really need the toilet. I really need a wee. And I was like, I thought I might. What if my waters go? I was like, because you have to curtsy, and I was like, I don't think I can get back up again. I'm so big. So it was just all I was thinking was, don't wet yourself and don't embarrass yourself and don't go into labour because that would be embarrassing in front of all the cameras and Prince Harry.
Although I imagine if you had gone into labour in front of Prince Harry, he'd have been checking on you at the hospital, so that would have been pretty exciting too.
Yeah. So yeah, Elias might
never
be
know.
called Harry if I put into
And
but yeah, he was.
I was gonna say, what a lovely, lovely experience, and was he as lovely as he seems to be?
Yeah, he's really normal. He's he feels it's that this generation of royals,
Yeah.
so William and Kate and Harry, they're really normal, and you're aware that it's royalty, but it doesn't feel quite as scary as meeting the upper royals who seem much, you know, I don't know, I'd be more afraid.
I think I'd be quite nervous to meet the Queen if I'm honest. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, she's so, but there are very strict rules. So I still curtsied for Prince Harry, but I don't think he would have minded if we didn't. He probably just let it slide. I don't think he was that bothered, but you know, you still go through the protocol anyway. And there's certain things you're not supposed to say to them, and you can't ask them about politics.
And so when they say to you, they come up and they say, "Listen, Prince Harry wants to meet you." They then run you through protocols. I'm guessing, because I don't think most of us. Well, I mean, I don't know, but I don't think most of us would know what to do.
No, they didn't actually. Luckily, I looked it up before because I thought, how them, because the Queen is Your Majesty, and it's like Your Royal Highness. You go, oh, Your Royal Highness. So I kept getting it wrong, and then I was trying to practice a curtsy in the hotel room and get up after, you know, 5 months pregnant.
And not wet your pants. So really see, that's extraordinary. Well done, you. That's incredible.
Not wet myself. I know, a very pregnant woman. It was, yeah, that was a challenge. But what was interesting was that we didn't know them, but Meghan was actually pregnant with their first child, Archie. So Elias was kicking away in my stomach as I shook Prince Harry's hand, because I think he was aware that Mummy was
Mummy was a little bit stressed.
Yeah, and Mummy was, something was going on. And then there was actually another baby in the room. Meghan was only a little. She was, it was before they announced it, so nobody knew except the two of them at that point. But we look back and go, oh, that's really sweet that they actually were two
They were in the same room together. There you go. So
yeah, in the same room.
I love it. Hey, I wanted to also say, look, you've won a mountain of awards, a mountain of them. But one of the things I was really interested to ask you about is that you are the only British person to be inducted into the Indie Hall of Fame. And that's extraordinary in and of itself. Tell me about that.
I don't really know why they picked me. I'm sure there's much better people, but I've won a few awards with the indie music channel and things like that, and they just seemed to really like what I was doing and like my story and the things that I've achieved, rather than just winning awards. It's like kind of other things as well, and so I thought that I'd missed my chance for this year's intake, but then they one of my friends, Kit Wakely, who's just won, he's just like been number one on the Billboard charts in America loads, and he's just played Carnegie Hall, so that's the kind of standard of person who gets in. And Kit had got in, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, Kit, that's so great. And I thought, oh, they haven't picked me, that's fine. And then they got in touch to say, no, you have been inducted. We just wanted to speak to you in person about it, just to, I was like, oh, really? So I just didn't think that was happening at all. Exactly. And then the induction was in Hollywood at the very beginning of September this year, but it was the day my daughter started school for the very first time. So that felt quite an easy choice for me to just say, I'm sorry, I can't be there. I've got to, I want to be with my daughter for her first day of school. So it's a shame that I missed that, but missed the induction, but I wouldn't have missed her first day of school for anything. And it felt, I was quite pleased that it felt like such an easy choice. I just went, oh, well, it's them, so I can't do it. And, walking my daughter to school in her uniform with her little bunches and stuff was much more important. Because, that induction is something that I would remember, but she'll remember forever, me being there for her first day of school and, checking into the classroom and things. So it was a very kind of working mum moment of like, right, there's a very clear decision here. But I went with that. I don't regret
I think
it.
it's really quite fascinating. Your entire life is fascinating, and I'm sure we could talk for hours. But it's funny, as I was researching more about you, that I was thinking this is really a story in the making itself, and you could almost see that your life could be a film. And if, it's
Oh my
quite extraordinary.
goodness.
And if it was, who would play you?
Oh my goodness. Someone who's got ridiculous hair. Who's good at bad hair. Very-
I'm loving your purple
I don't
hair, by the
know.
way. I think it's fabulous.
Thank you. It'll be a different colour in another week. It's been green and blue. I get bored easily. Oh, I don't know. Who do you think? Maybe I don't know. I love Lady Gaga. It depends if the character
Well,
has to
I'm
sing or
guessing
not.
as a
Because I
songwriter, you
think
probably
she's
do
amazing.
spout out a few tunes for sure. So,
Yeah, want a singer, wouldn't you? Yeah, Lady Gaga.
oh, I love
Probably. We're about the
that.
same
Five
height as
foot
well.
two, is that
I'm not
right?
fabulous. Yeah,
I'm
little tiny
I'm
person.
5 foot
Yeah,
two
my
as
mum's
well. So
4'9", so like everyone's perfect. We're just perfectly formed. We can have big heels and still not be
well,
tall
it's so
as
true,
people. So
so true.
great.
I think you are an extraordinary woman. I just love everything that you are doing. I am going to share all of your links so that people can check you out if they don't already know who you are, and that they can follow along with you, because I think, you're just an absolutely brilliant, inspirational woman, Rachel.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. That's so sweet. Oh, that's a nice pick me up for a
And I
Friday
and I
morning.
honestly, I do hope that if I ever get to the UK ever again, or if you ever get to Australia again, we do get to meet in person. I think you're wonderful. So I should ask before we wind this up, though. I should ask what's going on. What new projects have you got in the works? Because you're always doing something fascinating.
Something crazy. Um, I know. What else? So at the moment, I'm writing a book that's a kind of that's about creative women, because there's loads of books about women who have changed the world and done awesome things, like Rosa Parks and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who were these amazing women. They were really famous, and we've all heard of them. But we can feel kind of like, oh, but I'm never going to be as good as that, or do anything as amazing as that. But there's so many women I know who have overcome really difficult things and done something amazing in their lives. And I thought, actually, those are stories that need to be told. And so I just thought, I'll write the book. So it's so that's being written at the
Oh,
moment.
I
So there's lots of
love
different people
that.
in that, including
There you go.
Danielle, who won some
And
Roar
as
Awards. So
as
she's
a creative myself, I
I was
applaud
like,
you. I think that that's phenomenal. Great. I think that more women, female creatives in many different fields, need to be recognized for the things that they are doing.
definitely, definitely. And I think women often don't put themselves forward for things. We don't talk about what we're doing. We don't put ourselves forward for awards and things because we
True.
just think, well, there'll be better people, and yeah, there might be better people, but there might not. And actually, it's believing in yourself and putting yourself forward for those things feels really scary and feels very, I don't know, unwoman. I don't know. It's like it's a particular.
No, I think that that's true, and I do talk about this quite a bit actually. That as women, and it took me, I was 49 when I launched the podcast, 51 when I launched a magazine, and had male investors saying no one's going to be interested in the stories of women, especially the women over 40, and how wrong they are, right? Because I knew, and I speak to so many extraordinary women like your good self, there are so many stories to be told and so many amazing things that women are doing.
Exactly, and it's kind of our responsibility to change people's perception, like because we've been able to live these great lives. It's like if we can help others, younger people, to feel like, yeah, we can do that, we should believe in ourselves, then it's great. We're creating positive change and allowing women to believe in themselves and feel positive about what they're doing and the impact they have in the world, and that they can just go for it, and we'll be there to support them. We'll be there cheering them on.
Absolutely. Every step of the way.
Exactly.
Every step of the way. Absolutely. I just honestly, I applaud you. I adore you. I think you're fabulous. And I'm so pleased that you've come on to the Good Girl Confessional to share a little part of your journey. And thank you for making the time. We know that we're on opposite ends of the globe here.
It's fine. I've got tea, and my toddler's watching Toy Story, so we're fine. So,
Thank goodness for Toy Story.
exactly.
Exactly. Well, I can't thank you enough. It's been brilliant. As I said, we will share all the links for Rachel in our show notes and across our socials, and everybody should follow along with her incredible journey. And I for one, am super excited that you are writing this book, and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine. Available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.